So, I am starting my quitting sugar challenge this week. I'm officially on day 3. I started 2 days ago, obviously, I decided after some research to do a graduated plan to quitting. So I've started the first week of that. And I thought I would maybe document my progress every week. I would start with this first video, mostly but for myself, just to give myself a record of where I'm starting at, and then update every week so that I can sort of track how it's progressing. For myself, should I ever need to do this again, and I'll know what to expect, but also for anyone else who stumbles across this and wants to see how it goes. So today I'm going to offer a baseline of where I am at and some of these strategies I've decided to use, and then when I check in next week I will update on how it's been going, how I'm feeling, whether these strategies are working, and what my next steps are going to be. So, as a physical starting out point, I am 143.8 pounds as of my check-in on day 1, and I am going to be doing that on a weekly basis so that I can see how things are changing on that front, because pretty much everything online, when you're looking at people's personal experiences about quitting sugar, everybody is comments about how much weight they lost in the first few weeks or in the first month of doing it. And I won't deny that that is a big motivating factor for me. This is my week 1 picture. I obviously have a bit of a belly. Now, part of that is because I am a mom. I had 2 kids who were both at least 10 pounds when they were born. They were big children, and I had a big belly when I was pregnant, and I have not been able to lose that. I have what's called diastasis recti, where the abdominal muscles, they separate naturally during pregnancy anyway, but in most women they come back together on their own after the child is delivered, after the baby's delivered, and heal back together and everything's fine. They have the perfect belly that they had before having kids. But in many women, especially women who have had large babies or multiple pregnancies where those muscles have been stretched quite a lot, they don't always come back together completely, and so there remains this gap there, and that lets all the internal organs bulge forward in what forms that mummy belly. So, or mummy pooch, or whatever you want to call it. So I have that, and I know I have that, and it is my plan to eventually address that. But, sticking with any sort of exercise routine is challenging when you have ADHD and you don't much like exercising, so I haven't managed to stick to that yet. Also, I have an umbilical hernia, also from that same situation, so I haven't wanted to push too hard on that at this point. I am hoping that by losing some weight and getting back to my weight that I was pre-pregnancy will reduce some of the pressure on my abdominal wall and make it easier to do the diastasis recti exercises to heal everything up. I was doing some reading on sugar, what's called a sugar belly. That is very common, especially in middle-aged women like myself, and maybe like some of you guys. Some of you guys who aren't watching, I don't have any viewers. Maybe some of you guys down the road. That the fat that gets laid down through sugar calories, especially, can accumulate around the internal organs and create that belly pooch that's very similar to a beer belly in men. So I think that there may be some of that going on as well, because I have been very heavy on the sugar consumption, especially the last 3 years maybe, where I've leaned on it as a dopamine fix whenever I'm having a particularly stressful day with the kids, who the youngest who's a boy, and they both have ADHD. The girl has my daughter has typical girl ADHD symptoms, and my son has typical boy ADHD symptoms, and that has become quite a lot for me and my ADHD brain. Very overwhelming, and whenever I'm having an overwhelm moment, because I can't just go for a walk or, do healthier dopamine fixes like that, I've tended to go and grab a handful of chocolate chips, and that gives me a little dopamine burst to get through whatever is stressful, whatever that the kids are doing. So I have noticed that my weight has particularly changed, obviously since my son was born. I never went back to my pre-pregnancy weights. But I did manage to drop a bit. But there was a period where I just was not eating great. My weight ballooned. I'm 143, I think 144 now. But I did reach up to 173 at one point. I had never, ever been that heavy. Pre-pregnancy, I was in the 130s range, mid-130s. So that was all due to just sugar consumption and poor eating habits and just really poor attention to my own diet and exercise routines. I did manage to lose 30 pounds. I made a concerted effort, a couple of, maybe 3 winters ago now, to drop that by counting calories. And I still let myself eat sugar. I still let myself have everything that I normally did. I was just very conscious about counting calories and was successful. I had the motivation of, I had bought myself an Xbox and I put it in this cupboard here, and I wouldn't let myself pull it out until I had lost all the weight. That was my weight goal. So I really wanted to play a new game that had just come out on the Xbox, and it wasn't available on our old console. So I had this motivation. It was waiting here in the cupboard. I could see it whenever I went in there for something, and it was great. And it worked. The irony is, I hadn't told my husband I was buying the Xbox. And so when I had actually lost all the weight, I was too nervous to pull it out and hook it up and have him ask questions about where it had come from to actually do that. So it just sat in the cupboard for ages, even after I'd reached my goal. Anyway, point being, I was successful at that. And I think I can be successful at this too, but I do have to go into it with a plan. If my plan is simply cut back on sugar, not gonna work. I gotta have something more lined up about how I'm going to approach the thing, because my willpower is only there if I have a system in place to help me focus it. If I'm just strictly relying on willpower and I go up to the kitchen cupboard and I go, okay, I can't have sugar, what can I have? Brain overwhelmed, too many decisions, I can't think, this is too hard, and I end up reaching for the old stuff that I would normally grab anyway. So a big part of my goal, my approach for taking on this challenge, which is a major challenge for me, much like the weight loss journey was, is going to be having that system in place. So I had to think about how I was going to approach this and whether I was going to go cold turkey, which a lot of people recommend, or if I was going to take a step down approach. The cold turkey approach, a lot of people say that when you go absolutely cold turkey on pretty much all sugars, you end up with a lot of withdrawal symptoms, including major headaches and lethargy and similar things like that I can't really afford in my life as a mom of 2 young demanding kids. Like if I was just single and I was ditching the sugar, and fine, I could put up with headaches, I could take an Advil, go take a nap, or whatever, crash in front of the TV and veg for the evening until the headaches are done, something like that. I don't have that freedom right now because of the kids. So I need to make sure that what I'm doing allows me to remain functional even through the early stages. So I decided on a step down approach where I am not cutting out sugar completely in the first week, but I am reducing what I am intaking. And hopefully, I will be able to avoid the worst of the withdrawal symptoms by doing this reduction thing before. I will note that I have done not a sugar quit, but a sugar cut back before in the past. And this was again in time with this weight loss journey thing that I did, where I reduced my portion sizes of the sugar that I was consuming and the desserts and the whatever and what I would grab. And instead of having a little bowl full of chocolate chips, I would only have a small, like, tablespoon or something like that. And I didn't run into any withdrawal symptoms or anything. Obviously, I was still having sugar, so it makes sense. But because I had done that before, I figured taking a similar approach now could work, at least in terms of the overall sugar that I'm taking in. And I didn't feel like I was lacking or that I was missing cravings before, and I'm hoping that the same will be true now. Knock on wood. So for week 1, I decided that I would cut out all the desserts, all the extra sugars, the very obvious, like, zero nutritional value sugars out of my diet. So I would usually have a after dinner dessert, or those chocolate chips that I would grab when the kids are being stressful, those sorts of dessert treats. Or I'd swing by Tim Hortons on the way home for a coffee and a donut or something like that. And so I'm cutting those out this week. I won't be grabbing any of those. Instead of, when I feel like reaching for one of those things, I'll need to have an alternative that I reach for instead. And it can't be sugar. It can't be carbs. Carbs is also in my white carbs. White carbs are also in my first week reduction list. I haven't been eating bread for quite a while now. I cut that out maybe about a year ago as a calorie reduction tool. I haven't really missed it. That used to be my lunch in most days. So I've replaced that already. So mainly the carbs thing is like muffins or baked goods that I might grab on to snack in the afternoon, or stuff I might pick up when I'm out at Tim Hortons and that sort of thing. So all of that, I am still having pasta at dinner because pasta is a huge staple in our house, because ADHD kids who are very picky about what they eat, and pasta is one of the few things that I can reliably feed them. Obviously, they're ADHD, and it's carbs. Who's surprised? Not me. But so I'm still eating that, but I am trying to add in a few more veggies in there and change the proportions in those dishes. We'll see how that goes. I'm only 3 days in. So yes, this first week I'm cutting out all the obvious sources of significant sugar, with the one exception of my coffee, my daily coffee. I'm holding on to that. I have like 3 coffees a day, which is a lot. But it's in lieu of the chocolate chips, it's sort of what I have as a dopamine mood leveler, something or other. So I just have one that I sort of sip on all day, and like I've got one on the go right now. It's like this full because I've been sipping on it since I started maybe about an hour ago to make my kids' lunches. I made it when I started making their lunches, and I just sip as I'm working on things, and it sort of keeps me on an even keel all day. And I do need to have a lot of sugar in that. I'm not at the point where I like bitter coffee or bitter black tea for that matter, which I also used to drink a lot of, and I could easily switch to black tea. It does take less sugar than coffee, but I do find the coffee, just the caffeine content in coffee, is better for keeping me level up here. So coffee is allowed, or tea if I decided to switch to that, is my one allowance for sugar. I am also allowing myself anything with minimal sugar in it. So Cheerios have been my breakfast food for ages because they're easy and I like them. Just plain Cheerios, not Honey Nut or any of the fancy ones. They're too sweet for me. They've always been too sweet for me in the morning. But plain Cheerios, they only have a gram of sugar for an entire bowl full, and I feel like I can manage that. So that's not a large contribution to the daily sugar intake. And also peanut butter. Turns out peanut butter, despite having added sugar in it, doesn't have a lot of sugar. It's mostly the fats, I guess, that make it so satisfying. So I'm having as one of my snacks peanut butter on rice cakes. I really like this. It's nice and satisfyingly crunchy. There's no sugar in the rice cakes at all, and minimal sugar in the peanut butter, and it's very satisfying, and it fits that I need to grab something cozy or whatever, like I would normally reach for a muffin. This has been filling that need instead. The other things I'm switching out are, I've got chips for my after dinner. I like to have desserts many nights, and I'll just go and settle after supper. I'll go settle somewhere and have a little dessert to snack on. And I used to have something very desserty and sugary. I'm switching that out with chips for now, while I work through this initial quitting sugar stuff, and then I'll probably wean myself off those because I know they're not the healthiest either. But with the goal of reducing my sugar or quitting the sugar intake, that's my replacement there. So something really salty, and that's been good. I got myself popping corn for having a little snack in the evening. It requires a little bit more work to prepare than just going up and grabbing whatever snack out of the cupboard, but it's very low calorie, obviously no sugar, so I figure that's alright. I've got trail mix for snacking on when I just need to grab, like I'm having a snacky craving and I need to go grab something from the kitchen to snack on. I've also got sliced cheese that I can just, peel open the package, grab a slice of cheese. I don't even have to pull out the knife to cut it. My goal with all of these has been to make things easy and grabbable, because even though I like a lot of other things, if I'm the one having to prepare them, I tend not to. If it's going to take me more than like 2 minutes in the kitchen, I won't bother. It would be super easy for me to make an omelet, say, as an evening snack or something, or even as lunch. But just that, it takes me about 5 minutes to make up the omelet, put it in the microwave and cook it, and then wait for it to cool, and blah, blah, blah. And just that little bit of extra time is off-putting enough for me and my brain that I turn to something easy. So I've been stocking up on these easy snacks, and like cheese slices, really easy. Just reach in, grab one, and go. I've had some people suggest things like pickles. I'm not a fan of pickles, but I could see that being a really good snacking option if you were, or things like that. I'm finding at this point, a lot of people have recommended having chopped veggies, like you can buy bags of pre-chopped veggies or ready-to-go veggies, are not as satisfying, not as easy. They're easy to grab, but my brain goes, no. And so I haven't gotten to that point of going for those yet. Hoping I'll be able to start switching those in at some point. I do buy them. I use them for cooking because then I don't have to do any chopping, and it's great. But switching them out for snacking stuff is not happening yet, but maybe down the road. One other thing that I'm leaving into my diet is celebratory desserts, like Thanksgiving pie, Christmas pie, birthday cakes at birthday gatherings, the things where there's a social element to the dessert. It's not just me reaching for something. I'm going to leave those in for now. They may end up being my Achilles heel. We shall see. I'm hoping not. but I'm leaving them in for now because I think the social element is going to be difficult. It's easy enough for me to cut sugar out here at home, but anything where I'm around other people and having to decline what's being offered is going to be harder. So, leaving those in as well. So that's my plan for the first week, is to keep having the sugar in my coffee and my drinks. I'm also not worrying about sugars in things like pasta sauce, or even though technically there are added sugars in those things. Anything where the sugar content is minimal, I'm not worrying about, and I'm still drinking my coffee. But all the obvious sources of high calorie, low nutrient sugar items are out. Anything ultra processed like granola bars are out. And that'll be my plan for the first week. And next week I'm going to start cutting back on how much sugar I'm putting into my coffee and my drinks. And maybe cutting back on the amount of carbs I have in my supper meals, which is still a big source of carb-related sugars. But I'm going to revisit things when I get to next week and make a new plan for next week and going forward based on how this week went. So I will check back in next week with another update after I'm 7 days into this challenge, and we'll see how things are going. I am going to track my weight every week. I'll report on that. I'm not going to do a photo every week, or at least I'm not going to share it here. I will take a photo of myself every week just for my own awareness, but I will track my weight, and I will keep track of my symptoms over the week, and I will report back and let everyone who is not watching, except for myself, know how things are going and where I'm going to go from there. So, I will see you in the next check-in. Thanks for watching. Have a good week, and stay safe out there. Bye.